We're going to be doing a dumbbell routine for the arms and the shoulder. So if you're like me and want to build up the muscles in your biceps, triceps, and deltoid, hit that like button for me to let me know you want more workouts like this, and it helps support the channel, so thank you very much. So we're gonna go ahead and start out by doing actually my favorite dumbbell curl for building up that bicep, or my favorite exercise for that bicep. So for this, I like to use a incline bench. Now, this does a couple things, but two things especially I really like about this. Let me move it back. So for the bicep curl, the two biggest issues I see with it are that usually people are swinging their body, and because we're laying back, it actually forces your body to not be able to swing at all. So you're having to control the entire movement with your bicep. The other thing this does is it keeps those shoulders back so that you're lengthening the bicep muscle across both the elbow and the shoulder. So I'm getting maximum length in that bicep, which leads to better growth and more injury resistance because we're working that full length of that bicep rather than just half the length of the bicep. So we're really lengthening across two joints. A lot of people don't realize that the bicep actually works at the shoulder as well as the elbow. And this exercise maximizes both. Something that used to have happen with bicep curls is I would always feel that tendon right at the front of my arm, right in here, would feel like it was ripping apart. So I could curl 40 pounds, but my technique wasn't very good because I would stop about here and come back up. So I'd be doing these sort of half curls. And that's the least effective way of doing a curl. You want to actually go to that almost completely straight. So I found that dropping the weight to a lower weight and then training up my bicep tendon has allowed me to actually become a lot more injury resistant, where I don't feel that tendon tearing or that pain in my tendon anymore. So I like to do about 10 reps with a lighter dumbbell to start out for a warm-up. So that gets some blood flowing into that muscle, so it's primed and ready to go. So the next exercise is for the tricep muscle, that muscle in the back of the arm. Now this is an exercise I don't do as often, so I'm gonna have to see what weight is gonna be the right weight for me. So this is an over the head tricep extension. You're gonna start with the dumbbell right behind your head. Now careful you don't bump yourself in the back of the head as you're doing this. So you could have one hand here just sort of as a guide. You're gonna straighten out towards the ceiling and then back behind your head. I like to put sort of this hand here just so I don't accidentally bump myself in the back of the head. I'm starting with a 10-pound dumbbell. Now this is great because it brings your elbow above your shoulder. That fully lengthens that tricep muscle, and that high muscle length is what's going to lead to higher tension in the muscle, which also promotes more muscle growth. Now I don't need to lock out my elbow on this. I'm just going to where I'm lifting up above my head and then back down. The more important thing is to go all the way back down behind my head. And switch to the other side. So I'm trying about 10 reps per side. Now the exact number of reps don't matter too much as long as you are feeling tired in that muscle. These two muscles though, the tricep and the bicep, I found were probably the most consistently hard muscles for me to target. And the thing that really pushed it for me was, or the thing that helped me get better arms and start to build muscle in this, was learning how to really tension those muscles effectively. So anytime we bring that elbow above the shoulder, that tricep has to tension more and we get a better tricep workout. So we're gonna jump up to a heavier dumbbell now and start what are called working sets. Now that just means that's when we start counting the number of sets that we're doing. The more sets we do, the faster that muscle grows, as long as those sets are challenging. Let's slide that back just a little bit more. So when I'm doing the bicep curl, I'm going to go out to the front. I'm not going downwards with this. I'm going forward, so I'm keeping my elbows tucked in at my rib cage. Trying to go for about 10 reps. Should feel that in my upper arm. Now, if you're like me and want to have arms that are busting sleeves, you're gonna want to really prioritize doing isolation movements as well as compound movements for your biceps and triceps. So bench press is fine, it's good for a compound movement, but it works a lot of muscles all at once. Doing isolations helps that muscle grow faster. So instead of just being generally bigger, you can prioritize where you see that muscle growth. That's why I'm emphasizing arms and shoulders today, because I want to grow this area. And these are smaller muscles that recover faster. If I had to wait for my chest to recover, I'd be doing a lot less per week. I knew a guy in college who's a bodybuilder, and he actually, putting on a polo, ripped the sleeve of his polo shirt because his bicep was too big. I'd love to get to that point as well. We're gonna try this with 20 pounds and see how it feels. It might be a little too heavy at 20. I think I could do this. Yeah, I can get through the full range of motion. So I'm going all the way down to where it's behind my head, where my elbow's completely bent. So that's the really important thing, is you wanna go light enough where you can get through the full range of motion, but heavy enough where it's challenging. And 10. Should have started with my left hand on this, because my right hand tends to be a little bit stronger than my left. And 10. All right. Now, one thing I like about this exercise is that when one side's working, the other side's recovering, so I can just jump straight from one set to the next. That lets me get through a workout much faster. That's called supersetting, where we work one side of the joint, like the front side of the joint, then the back side of the joint in 2 exercises. So we're alternating between the 2 sides. So while one side's working, the other side's recovering. And it lets you get through a workout really efficiently that way. Especially with smaller muscles like this that don't have a lot of systemic fatigue or fatigue on your heart and lungs, and don't generate a ton of extra heat because they're just not big enough to be a large source of heat of thermogenesis. And 10. So I can just jump from one to the next. Instead of spending hours at the gym, I can get a great workout in a much shorter period of time. Now I'm gonna start with my left hand this time. So keeping that elbow high, hand behind the head, straightening out towards the ceiling. Should feel that right back here in the back of my arm. You could even feel that tricep tensing up. 9 and 10. Now I like this a little bit better than the skull crusher. I'm still getting that advantage of the elbow being high, but I don't know, for me, the skull crusher feels not quite as good as this, where I really am feeling this directly in my tricep. Now that is not true for everyone. So you have to try this exercise and see if it is going to be more effective where you feel that tension in the muscle. Eight, yeah, I feel a lot more burning in this. 9 and 10. That's the thing is, there's a lot of different ways of working the same muscles. It's about finding what's best for you, for how your body is set up, where you feel the most effective workout. There are general things that are important for everybody, but for some people, for instance, they'll do a squat and their glutes will grow like crazy. And for other people, they do a squat and their quads grow instead. So sometimes you have to change up the exercise, find a variation that will work effectively for you to build the muscle the way you want. Now you always want to do a full range of motion, especially in that lower portion of the movement, to maximize muscle growth. That's true for everyone, but the specific angles and which one will work the best for you, that can change person to person a little bit. So for the overhead extension, like this, I'm still using sound principles of having high tension on that tricep. And for me personally, I found this, I feel a lot more in that tricep. So I like this variation. This is kind of a new exercise for me though, so I'm gonna see how I feel tomorrow. I might feel incredibly sore in my tricep, and I wanna see if I can actually recover from this by Friday so I can do bench press again. And 10. So I might need to go a little bit lighter of a weight on this to make sure I can recover by Friday. We'll have to see. Now, if you're liking this content and want to see more, I host these live streams on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, showing you exactly what I'm doing to build physique. I'm trying to get a 6-pack by 40, so that's a combination of building up muscle and losing fat. And relax. So half of that, I like to say exercise or fitness is sort of 3 pillars. You have exercise as one pillar, nutrition as a second pillar, and sleep as that third pillar. Now that was the one I personally forgot about for a long time, is sleep. I just had very poor quality sleep, where I was sleeping 4 or 5 hours a night tops, and not high quality sleep. I would get to bed at about 3 a.m., woke up at 8, and then would just feel awful through the day. And I didn't realize how much of an effect that was having on my hormones, on my testosterone, my ability to recover from workouts. I just wasn't healing very quickly, so I was always sore and hurting. And I found that taking a magnesium supplement actually made a big difference in the quality of my sleep. Now, that's not necessarily true for everyone, but for me personally, I found that I was low in magnesium. 10. Okay. And now what I'm trying to do is make sure I go to sleep the same time every night, because that is actually really beneficial for setting your rhythms. Whoa. I'm just gonna give myself a moment. My shoulder feels a little uncomfortable in that position. So I'm protecting my shoulder, giving it a little bit more time to recover, because it's no good if I push through the exercise, push through that pain, and then blow out my shoulder. So we'll see how that goes. Just taking another 30 seconds. So if you're not getting enough sleep, you're not recovering from your workout the same as you could, you're gonna be more sore, you're not gonna build muscle like you could. So I found that I was doing the exercise part, but not the sleep, and also not the nutrition. I've been really trying to dial in my nutrition. I've upped the amount of protein I'm taking, and suddenly there's resources for the muscle to rebuild and heal. So I like to shoot for somewhere around a gram per pound of body weight of protein. It's actually closer to about 0.7 grams per pound, but if you want to be a little bit, if you want to be a little more precise, that's what you want to aim for. I'm gonna see how my shoulder feels on this. I'm gonna try two-handed, so going here and then up. Yeah, just so my hands can support one another a little bit more. So I'm gonna up the weight just a little bit, and I'm just gonna go higher reps on this last few and do two hands at once. So I'm holding the dumbbell with both hands, going behind the head. That feels a little bit better on my shoulder, actually. Thanks. 7, 8, 9, and 10. Whew. Sometimes you have to make adjustments. I think for that one, I actually kind of like the two-handed grip where you're sort of doing like this with the dumbbell right in the middle, pushing up above your head. I can definitely feel that right here in the tricep. That's something, it was starting to feel uncomfortable in my shoulder, and I know I don't want to keep on pushing that, because that shoulder joint is actually pretty, it's held in by muscle. It's a shallow joint. So if I'm feeling like it's slipping at all, I want to make sure I'm not putting it in a position where it's compromised, because I don't want to injure that joint. Because the number one thing you can do to set yourself back in a workout is injuring yourself. So now, I'm gonna shift down to the deltoid. Now I used to do lateral raises with the deltoid like this, where you're lifting out to the side. Those do work, but I found that doing this variation really elevates that movement, makes it so much more effective. So doing a side lying lateral raise from here to here, you get so much more tension in your arm, in that deltoid right here. So going up and then down to the side, you can feel a ton of extra tension in that muscle. This is almost a lengthened partial, where you're going through the bottom part of the movement, but putting a ton more tension into that muscle. Eight, 9, and 10. So I'm pointing my thumb towards the front and then lifting up to the side. And then same thing on the other side. So you could go post up just a little bit on your elbow, lifting up to the side. I actually kind of like that better. 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Now, you don't actually have to do this on a bench. If you do it on a bench, the guys that want to do bench press will get very upset with you at a gym. You could just do this laying on a pad or on the ground. I'm doing it here because it's home gym. So if you have a bench like this, you can definitely do this. It's a little nicer to have the pad on your elbow instead of just on the ground or on the carpet. It's a little, even carpeting is not quite as padded as the benches. And it does not take a very heavy dumbbell to get a great workout in this. I actually recommend going a little lighter than you think. Because what people often do when they're lifting up to the side is they lift with their shoulder, that trap muscle up here in your neck, and not from the deltoid muscle that's this ball of muscle around your shoulder. So if you're going too heavy, you'll sort of swing like this. And we want to avoid that because we're not trying to build up the traps as much as we're trying to build up that cap on that shoulder for the big shoulder. It's fine to have big traps, but not what we're trying to do with this exercise as much. So see, I'm keeping my shoulder down. I'm not doing this. I'm not lifting like that. And to do that, you want to have a light enough weight where you feel like you can control the movement with your shoulder. 9, and 10. Whoa, it got all blurry. There we go. That was interesting. I think that's set number 2. I like to shoot for 4 sets on any muscle I'm trying to grow. So since trying to build up the arms and the shoulders, I like this one because while one side is working, the other side is relaxing and resting. And 10. I'm starting to get tired for sure. So if you're liking these workouts and want to see more, if you like this sort of content, hit that like button for me to let me know you want more things like this, where we do simple dumbbell workouts at home to build fundamentals of the fundamental muscles. So we don't have to do things crazy where we're hanging upside down holding dumbbells. Don't need to do anything like that to build muscle. It's just the consistency. Doing consistently high volume workouts. Seven, 8, 9, and And a lot of people go for the really novel exercises, and those aren't necessarily bad, but usually the amount of benefit you're getting from them is so small over a normal exercise, and it's usually a lot more time, a lot more setup, a lot more technical proficiency that you need to do those really complicated exercises, and they're only slightly more effective sometimes, and only if you're doing them right. So taking the simple exercises and just mastering those simple exercises can get you a huge amount of muscle mass where you never need those crazy looking exercises. Now, they look really good on video, and so people will do them because they look really impressive, and that's totally fine. There's nothing wrong with that. It's for the average person though, you don't need to do some crazy variation where you're balancing on a balance ball while trying to do a bicep curl. It's just not necessary. Or trying to do a lateral raise hanging upside down or something to that, like that. It's figuring out what exercises help you feel tired, help you feel that tension in the muscle, and then doing those a lot of times per week. Mastering the basics makes a huge difference. This is my favorite side lateral raise exercise. Hey, awesome. Lars, good to see you. I really have been enjoying this one as well, where you get that full length of the deltoid at this bottom part of the movement. Now, do you do this with dumbbells or do you do it with resistance bands? And which have you preferred to use? I like it with dumbbells, personally. I find that it's easier to set up. Like I was saying, you can do it with resistance bands and it's totally fine to do. It just takes more time and know how to set that up. All right, so with those 3 exercises, we covered all the major muscle groups of the arms. So that deltoid, tricep, and bicep. So if you like these live streams and want to see more, I host them on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 11 a.m. Pacific time. Thanks everyone for being here, and I hope to see you next time.